Hello and welcome to the podcast of FullyCrypto, the home of quality blockchain and cryptocurrency news, reviews, opinion and more. In this second episode, I speak to Richard Olsen, the founder of Lykke, a cryptocurrency wallet exchange and blockchain solutions provider. We talk about the pleasures and perils of working in the blockchain space, why blockchain technology has struggled with mass adoption to date, and how regulators are struggling to keep up with the companies they're supposed to be regulating. For those with more than a passing interest in the blockchain and crypto space, it really is a treat to get such great insight from someone as knowledgeable as Richard, and it's well worth your time. Thank you and enjoy. I'm thrilled to be speaking with Richard Olsen, the founder and CEO of Lykke, the cryptocurrency wallet and exchange provider, blockchain business platform builder, and coronavirus pandemic initiative funder. Richard is a pioneer in the high-frequency finance space, having founded Oanda, a forex information company and market maker, before moving into the wild west of the crypto space, which is what we'll be primarily discussing today. Richard, welcome.
Pleasure to talk. Thank you for reaching out to us.
Our pleasure as well. Our pleasure, certainly. First of all, most importantly, did I pronounce the name right? Lykke, is that correct?
It's Lykke. I mean, kind of, many different kind of pronunciations, but Lykke means happiness, luck, and it's actually the surname of my grandmother in Denmark. And my father always, said, "No, that brings us luck." So, and obviously, when you start a venture, you want that venture to succeed, and also, but not only just the venture, but you want the people who interact with it also to be lucky. And so, this is why we have chosen the name.
Very nice, very appropriate. Could you start, Richard, by please just telling me a bit about yourself, your background, and how and why you got into crypto?
So I've come into crypto because what I'm passionate about is let's create a sustainable financial system and a society that really is functional and doesn't have all these inequities as we're literally accustomed to. That's the basic reason why I'm in this space. But actually, my journey started way back, and really started when I was at school. And it's there that I can clearly remember. I said, why in the financial industry don't they use science-based principles to build their businesses? And after studying, I joined a bank. Very soon I decided, my goodness, there are these startups which are being set up in the US. Why don't I build a startup here out of Zurich, Switzerland? Little understanding the complexity of doing that. The first startup was called Olsen and Associates. We were building a real-time information system using big data, with the goal of having real-time forecasts for decision makers that they take better decisions. And we eventually had many of the Europeans' big banks were all our customers. Out of that, I was early into providing not only predictive service, but risk data to the big banks. Then out of that, when the internet arrived, we discovered, my goodness, this is a big opportunity. So we launched the company called Oanda, which is an abbreviation for Olsen and Associates. We first made currency information available. Then in 2001, launched the first of its kind straight-through trading platform for foreign exchange, which revolutionized foreign exchange trading for the retail, because we gave the retail people access to very efficient spreads, that is, efficient pricing so that they can trade successfully. This was a shooting star, but it is there that I, became acquainted with in detail the deficiencies of the financial system. So this trading platform offered second-by-second interest rate payments. And that was, for me, a statement that I wanted to, or that it was necessary to rewire the back end of financial markets. And rather late, when Bitcoin, kind of first emerged, people were talking about this is the one currency for the globe. I didn't understand why that doesn't resonate. But in 2011 suddenly realized, my goodness, we could use this infrastructure that is blockchain to build the new backend for the financial industry. And then tried to convince Wanda of doing that, failed, then left, and then waited for the right moment in 2015, then launched Lykke as we're doing now.
What was it about 2015 that made you think, right, this is the right time?
I still remember it. I went to a gallery opening, and 2-3 people came to me and said, "You have to now buy Bitcoin."
Nothing's changed.
And when the man in the street tells you to now do something, maybe it has really arrived. To be very honest, I thought then that the debate would shift, that people would understand, and the following would become the issue. That people would from then on say, blockchain is a solution to big problems that exist in the existing financial system. I was not prepared that then it would take so long. Everyone only talks about crypto, without ever putting the light on the big deficiencies which are kind of the hindrance of an efficient financial system, which ultimately decides if our economy goes into recession or we have a booming economy. So the disappointment is today that the awareness of the true potential of blockchain and tokenization, people don't share that, don't understand that.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think that this crypto as an entity, I suppose, has gained more traction and more headlines, etc., than the technology behind it? Is it because we're still suckers for hype and for massive price increases rather than the kind of the boring technical stuff beneath it? Do you think that's why blockchain as a concept hasn't really taken off yet?
I think there are other reasons. On the one hand, I have had an entrepreneurial career, but in parallel, I've been kind of passionate about being scientific in how to look at financial markets, and we have collected tick data and done pioneering work in the market microstructure, high frequency domain. So that's where my core expertise as an economist is. Now, central bankers, regulators, bankers have not done that homework. So they are practitioners who take gut decisions, but they're not engineers in the true sense. So they lack the knowledge and understanding of why financial markets are as outdated as they are. And it's actually this lack of understanding and hands-on experience in trying to create a better infrastructure that is the true reason. So, because I've talked to a lot of bankers, a lot of central bankers, regulators, and explaining them to them, and they say, yes, you're right. But the true significance doesn't ring home. With Chris Giancarlo, who is, belongs to the steering group of the Lead Open Initiative, who has himself been regulator, has had his own company, is lawyer. For him, it's very different. For him, it's very tangible. But it's too few people have that understanding today.
And do you think that if there is to be this meshing of blockchain technology into the traditional financial system, is it something that the populace can drive, or do you think it's something that only the banks can initiate?
So, you're putting your point on a key problem. So let me explain. First, what would help a big deal if the populace at large would go to its governments and say, please just come up with new ideas and allocate some money at sustainable solutions. Don't just try to do one emergency measure of the other, but embrace technology. So that's where the populace can help. The second thing is, if you talk to the bankers, yes, among 1,000 bankers, there'll be 1 or 2 or 3 who are true pioneers, and they're open to come with true innovation. And it's important to give them the advice, strategic support to implement. But the remaining 997 people in banks don't have the stamina, know-how, and determination to know what it really means to implement. And finally, what one has to do just in general is, I think, an educational program. And the educational program starts with something very trivial. And this is what we're doing, is we're just creating the products. And when you then hold it in your hand, then suddenly you say, oh, this is what it brings. So it's very much like the smartphone. The smartphone was only developed because some people had the courage to just build it. It was unimaginable before. And the same thing, I think, with this new technology.
And how hard have you found it to try and get people to understand the benefits that both your product and blockchain in general can bring? Are you banging your head against the wall trying to get it through, or do you find people are slowly coming around to the idea that the existing system is broken and this is a potential solution?
So first of all, if you listen carefully, yes, we get a lot of endorsement, but it's, it's whispers which we're hearing. It's not a loud voice say, this is what we need. So if we're happy with people whispering, say, yes, you're on the right track, yes, we get a lot of endorsement. And, the people who sign up for us, who are in our communities, how passionate they are, that is quite remarkable. But again, we have a long way to go. It's a real journey. And I expect that as painful as the whole COVID crisis is and its impact on the macroeconomic front, it's actually, creates awareness. And before the crisis, many people really didn't understand what I was meaning. But today, they say, oh, yes, Richard, you might be really right. This is what is needed.
Interesting. Yeah, there's lots of things that are going to come out of this pandemic, and it could be that we see the benefits of some systems and the problems with other systems that lead us to make these changes. The reason this interview came about is because I read that you lost your banking partnership with a UK bank, which is related to what we're discussing now. So firstly, how did that break come about, and why do you think that break came about?
One hand in the bank doesn't know what the other hand is doing. So it's really just that. It's, I think, nothing relevant. It's actually on our side, we have actually kind of held a little back in reaching out to other banking partners, because on our side, we'll very soon have a substantial regulatory jump, which we're doing. And we really wanted to wait until we have done that jump and come into a very different bracket. Now, if we, do business with an existing banking provider, we come in under the kind of umbrella of crypto, and that has notoriously just a very bad brand name. As soon as we have our OTF license, we can come in under that new flag, and obviously, hopefully, we'll be treated in a very different way, and that will be to the benefit of our users. And so it now takes this very painful thing of first accepting, consumers, users here will offer you less. But it's with the idea that when we then approach, and some of the relationships are already ongoing, get into these banking partners, that we're getting into the right slot, which will ultimately dictate what services we can offer to our users again.
And so do you think that what you've experienced is symptomatic of the relationship between blockchain fintech companies and the mainstream banking world? Is it symptomatic of that relationship as it stands at the moment?
Oh, completely symptomatic. It's a joke what's going on. I mean, in a sense, the stories which I could tell you, just you wouldn't believe me. You say, I've just made up the story, but it's not. It's just very crazy. And there are so many people who are so enthusiastic within banks about what we're doing, but then get blocked off, don't have a chance to move it on. It's just so painful. It's really painful.
How much of that do you think is down to them not understanding, and how much do you think is down to them being fearful that they could just be creating their own downfall by making this more mainstream?
I mean, it's all, all these different fears and things all come together. It's kind of, it's a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and then in one bank it's more of that, then just the complexity. I mean, we also have to realize that the regulatory framework which people operate in is daunting. I mean, the many places there's red tape. There's everywhere red tape, and then there's fear, and then even the most courageous people become very frightened. So there are just a lot of factors, and because there are so many different factors, actually it's very difficult to argue, because you don't know. You might have a good guess at the person who's just your opposite in the discussion, what his fears are, but you don't know who is his supervisor, who is his colleague, who is the top boss, and that has all a big impact. But I have to say, there are some financial institutions or CEOs which are very forward looking and try to move their operation in a very different way, but it takes them a long time, so as well.
The existing banking model has been in place for so long now that it's going to take something special to shift it, which is why I asked you earlier, if there's something that's driven by individuals rather than by companies, can there be like a ground roots movement towards making crypto more interlinked with the existing banking system?
So very much so. On the one hand, really plead with your local MPs, please embrace technology. But this is also why we're launching the Open Initiative, because we think there is a big space where the populace at large can help. And let me explain. So basically, any government knows that they have to build bridges, kind of ensure some public transport. These public utilities in the physical world are reality and part of the agenda of every government. Now, over the last 100 years, the world has become very virtual with the internet and all those services which have this virtual existence. It's not physical roads which are needed. But now in this virtual space, governments have not woken up to the fact that if these virtual spaces don't have public services, don't have commons, they will not be operational for the benefit of society. And the Open Initiative fills that gap. It tries to tell the populace at large, please start to contribute to these public services which have to be developed. So yes, they could contribute a lot.
What's the response you've had with regards to the Open Initiative? Have you had many people using that as a basis to start projects?
When you kick off a project, the really good projects take time. So we've never expected, we just publish it and then here everyone just says, this is what we were waiting for. But so what I have been very surprised at, positively surprised, is the caliber of people ready to contribute. And there we're building a small team of experts, of kind of a steering group of truly very interesting people with a lot of know-how, where Chris Giancarlo is just one of them. And that is the big surprise for me. So that is far beyond my wildest hopes.
In terms of the mainstream adoption of blockchain technology and cryptocurrency as a whole, then just yesterday, there's this talk of PayPal and Venmo being potentially having some sort of cryptocurrency functionality. If that was true, and if that happened tomorrow, what impact do you think that would have on the industry?
So obviously, any incumbent who embraces that is positive. But I think the real breakthrough of how blockchain tokenization comes when it's fully regulated. And this is why our kind of what we're doing here at Lykke is so important. When we can tokenize any security, be it bond, shares, and create a whole universe of stable coins, so to speak, and you can use it when you go shopping, all these different tokens. Think of that change that will have. Mm-hmm. So I think it's like us asking ourselves, does a half smartphone capture the imagination of the people. No, you need the full smartphone. And I think there is a reason why, crypto in general, will have a very positive future, is because of all this printing press going on, printing fiat currency. And it will be, in a relative short period of time, there will only be one asset class which has a consistent positive performance. Now, a big worry for me is the fact its volatility. So I think that is a great pity. And what is really needed is some innovative products which don't exhibit that volatility. So I think it's just very important that the people involved in this industry themselves have a broader remit of what they try to realize in terms of offering the end users some products which address some of the concerns which today validly exist.
So how would you go about trying to reduce the volatility in the market?
I created a financial product which is designed for that. So literally, say, okay, let's design something which has a much lower volatility. I mean, any option product has that. So kind of introduce some option features into it to, give it that flavor. But now, again, kind of to make it work, we have to, there's a regulatory dimension. So a lot of question marks. I mean, the painful thing in this whole industry is its own complexity. I mean, creating a smartphone, you just need user experience guys, then technology guys from the mobile telephony technology, and then some software engineer. In the domain that we're doing here in reInvent, you need financial engineers, you need user interface, you need software, but you also have this regulatory dimension. And it's not just, kind of having an answer to the regulatory dimension, it's also having the right legal entity which has the right approval. So that makes it much more difficult.
Yeah, it certainly does. Regulations and as you said earlier, the red tape is a massive, massive problem. How have you found dealing with the regulations in different countries? And do you see it getting easier or harder in the next few years as we hopefully see more adoption in the space?
So we have had a lot of exposure across it. So we somehow can have a good judgment. That's point one. The second will definitely become a lot easier because the pressure to innovate and introduce this technology is increasing rapidly, and the COVID crisis is just yet another point. The third point, and I have to say, and this is something which I got completely wrong. Starting in 250, I thought it was so obvious. People will understand the financial crisis was 80 years ago. We really need a solution, so it could somehow be possible to communicate that blockchain is the answer. That didn't succeed. And at the time, when I went to the lawyer, he said, for your OTF license, it would take 9 months, maybe a year. Let's think it's 1.25 year absolute maximum. So now we have been at it for 4 years. We're literally coming to the end of that process, but the persistence which was necessary is just quite special. And I'm convinced going forward, it takes a lot of persistence, and the quality of legal support you need is just has to be very high. Otherwise, people will get lost in the regulatory kind of complexity. And here I have to explain why that is so difficult. Because what we're trying to do is we try to use the existing law as it is and present what we're doing in such a way that it can be used and executed within the existing legal framework. Far too many lawyers say, you want to do this? And they then say, I'm not allowed to do it. So they will then plead for a new law, exemption, etc. they don't take the time to think, if we would present the product in a slightly different way, design it slightly differently, then we could do it within the existing legal framework. So our mantra is to execute within the existing legal framework.
Is there an issue then with the fact that in many ways, the companies like yourselves trying to really push this are ahead of the regulators, because the regulators are trying to come up with laws at the same time as these products are being created?
Yes, that is a big issue, but you have another problem in this whole blockchain crypto space. There is a lack of financial engineering expertise. So there are lots of software engineers, lots of crypto specialists, crypto specialists, but a big lack of people who have deep financial engineering expertise. And kind of this has been a struggle for me at Lykke. Kind of when you build your team, people can rapidly say, I understand how to do it. So if you have intelligent people, they can tell you fast, I know how to do that. But then there is a big gap between just conceptually saying you can do certain things and physically executing. So I think that is a hindrance which people across the industry have, and this is slowing progress a lot. There is then another additional problem. So actually, biotech has undergone the same kind of problem. Is in the sense it was a new discipline, there was lack of know-how, it had to be built up. But in the pharmaceutical industry, you had a tradition of heavy capital spending on R&D. So here is a new technology, and this tradition would somehow spill over. So what we today have in the blockchain FinTech industry, we don't have that tradition. So banks, even though they're attempting to now fund a few startups, they don't have this deep tradition. And this makes it, for companies, just even for Lykke, it's difficult to raise the money. It's difficult to get people to say, okay, let's invest, let's think of what is the big upside and do that. So, but that is also a big opportunity for people now in the space. If they understand the companies which have potential, they can go in and say, look, I'll invest. So
let's talk about something a bit more positive after all the doom and gloom of regulations. When I first looked into the project before speaking to you, I only knew it as the crypto wallet. I didn't know about the exchange. I didn't know about the open initiative or the business side of things. So could you tell me a bit about what the company is kind of at its core and what your ambitions are for the various elements in the short term and long term?
So first, the kind of mantra is, let's democratize finance at all levels. That's the basic mantra. Second is actually to bring traditional financial markets to blockchain. So really help this migration, which at some stage will happen, to this new blockchain digital world. That's the second. The third is, let's get our hands dirty and not just make abstract statements. So the fourth is, let's get the right regulatory wrappers which give us a true long-term strategic edge. So as a first step, we launched the crypto exchange out of the UK, always cognizant that we have to do it in such a way that as soon as we're regulated, the regulator doesn't fall out of his bed and really will say, Richard, look at you have done the right thing. So we have today this unregulated exchange out of the UK. We are and have over a long period of time or years been in this process to get a FINMA license, that's the Swiss regulator, FINMA, to get a broker dealer license, which is a so-called OTF, Organized Trading Facility license, out of Switzerland. And we're literally at the last phase of that. That license is a game changer for us. Why? Because it allows us, under the brand of Lykke, to tokenize any share any bond or commodities, and that the token can then be bought and sold on our exchange or exported outside our ecosystem. But even more important, other players are allowed to issue their financial product on our OTF and tokenize their assets. So it's an exchange. It's one which will allow tokenization of any financial instruments. And now this is the important thing. Why is this so important for the industry? Because brokers around the world can then start to buy those instruments and sell it on to their users in their countries. So the OTF is like a kind of, it opens the door through which brokers can then get access to that. So that's the big game changer. Now, there is one important element in our strategy which I didn't explain, and that's the Lykke business side. So from the very start, I said, let's build our own stuff, but let's also make sure that whatever we're building, we can export and make available to incumbents. And Lykke Business does that. So it works with big banks, big corporates to provide solutions for in their space, leveraging what we have been building.
That's some quite heavy-hitting stuff in terms of ambitions.
Yes, but I mean, so it has been a big challenge so far. What I can tell you is it's so exciting to see how the team, we have a really strong fighting team, I can tell you.
Well, I think after 4 years, at least 4 years of dealing with one regulator, you're going to have some fighters in there, I think.
Yeah, it's just fun. I mean, the people to work with. I mean, real characters, real passion. It's just, I look at just a lot of fun.
It sounds like a nice challenge to be part of.
Yes, it is, definitely.
Fantastic. Richard, thank you very much for your time.
All the best. Thanks. Goodbye.
My thanks to Richard Olsen, founder and CEO of Lykke, in conversation with me, Mark Hunter of FullyCrypto. I hope you enjoyed the interview and Richard's in-depth knowledge of the cryptocurrency ecosystem, its challenges and potential. You can visit Lykke at lykke.com, that's lykke.com, and you can follow them on Twitter at Lykke. We'd love to know what you thought of the interview. We're on all the social medias at FullyCrypto, and for the latest crypto and blockchain news, interviews, opinions and more, please check out our site, fullycrypto.com. Once again, thank you to Richard for taking the time to speak to me, and thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll speak to you again soon. Thank you.